Welcome to Gonzo Film Reviews. Today I'm going to be reviewing LEGO Dimensions. Part of the special quality of the LEGO games has always been taking very famous properties like Star Wars or Indiana Jones or Pirates or even book franchises like Harry Potter and popular video game franchises like Sonic and turning them into hilarious brick-busting adventures. There's never been a bad LEGO game, and they're all incredible in their own way. But I actually think LEGO Dimensions was the best one that they ever made. It was during the Toys to Life craze, like Skylanders. You could actually build LEGO creations. Well, not creations. You could actually build miniature LEGO sets, and you could put them onto a pad, and they would actually enter the game with your minifigures that represented characters. It was thrilling. It was a thrilling concept and a beautiful idea, and it had promotion bar none. Christopher Lloyd even did a skit to advertise the Back to the Future sets, and there were Back to the Future levels in the main story of the game. And the main story is something I'll get to. But the add-ons were just incredible. You had Wizard of Oz, you had Goonies, you had a ton of DC Comics superheroes, you had Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts, you even had Sonic. They added Powerpuff Girls at some point, I think. Jurassic World was a big part of it too. Ghostbusters, did I already say Ghostbusters? There were just so many different ones, it was incredible. And the crossover potential was unbelievable. You could take Batman to Middle-earth, and Gandalf could go to Gotham City. All sorts of crazy things could happen. And that was just the little add-on free play worlds. One really exciting part of it was the Doctor Who expansion pack, which gave you specific levels that you could play. And it also opened up access to every single incarnation of the Doctor from the 1st through the 12th, because they, at the time of the making of the game, they had only 12, and that was pretty incredible. And Peter Capaldi's Doctor also played a pivotal role in the main story, but it was just fantastic. Anyone of any age can enjoy it. The only big setback really was the price. That's ultimately what sunk it. Toys to Life as a format just doesn't work very well at all. It's expensive and people aren't willing to spend a ton of money on extra packs when they blew $100 already just on the starter pack in the main game. So that's where they really crashed and burned all those Toys to Life games. Disney Infinity did even worse. The main story though was just, it was the best part, and I think it deserves a sequel. Even if there's no Toys to Life aspect, I think it deserves at least a spiritual sequel, because it was so fun to mix all those different universes together and have such a fun, ridiculous story. The three main characters were Batman, Wildstyle, and Gandalf, and they actually formed a spectacular team that complemented each other perfectly. And even if you didn't really care about those characters before the game, you would fall in love with them during and afterwards. It was hard for me to end the game. It was hard for me to say goodbye to them, because it was just such a fun adventure going through all these crazy universes and surviving with those three guys. It was just so fun. They ended up crash landing in the Wizard of Oz to begin, and then they fell into the Simpsons world. They even fell into video game universes that you wouldn't think they were compatible in. You know, those old Mario style games. They fell into Space Invaders at one point. It's just, yeah, it was a hell of a rip-roaring ride, and there was a ton of nostalgia for old movies, old shows, old games, all mixed together. Especially in the Ghostbusters level. At one point they fell into New York in the 80s when the ghost attack was happening in their world, and it just it tied so many different Lego properties and so many different properties that Lego hadn't even done anything with yet before. They got to add a lot of things to their repertoire. I don't remember any Ghostbusters games before this one happened. Additionally, you had Scooby-Doo available. I already mentioned Sonic the Hedgehog. Mission Impossible had an expansion pack. There was even one specifically for the Lego Batman movie. Teen Titans Go. Yeah, this game had pretty much anything you would want. They even had a Beetlejuice. You could add him to the game. And so basically it took these three characters through an insane quest through a ton of different worlds. The ones I mentioned, like the Simpsons world. And then they also had to go through a smashed up version of Middle-earth. And they went through a damaged version of Metropolis. It was pretty much the most epic game in terms of story and in terms of stakes and the scale that Lego's ever done. The only thing that could rival this open world probably is the new Skywalker Saga game. But yeah, this one Dimensions was thrilling. And they took full advantage of the fact that they were able to get the license to include Doctor Who in there to explore time travel and space travel as part of the big story points. Because the main villain in this one was a character called Lord Vortek, and he had discovered a piece or foundational elements that gave him very great power in their universe. So they really made the stakes higher, and the three characters had to do a hell of a lot to fight him, and it was just so much fun doing that. Some levels in particular stood out. The ones where you go through Middle-earth and battle him there, that was extraordinary. And then the Doctor Who levels were just thrilling. It was so fun playing with all that and playing with the TARDIS and everything. And then the Portal 2 level was just thrillingly creepy. You had to solve a bunch of puzzles with a mildly threatening nanny robot judging you the entire time and judging your performance. And there was a pretty fun Ninjago one as well, where you turned into a gladiator. Well, you had to become a gladiator and fight some serious competition, and then eventually a giant snake. That was something. The only problem with the game is untapped potential. Most of the open worlds that you unlock from a certain IP, like Lord of the Rings or DC Universe or Ghostbusters or whatever, there was not much to do in those free roam areas. You could solve puzzles and get collectibles and collect all 15 gold bricks, but that was pretty much all there was to it. Some expansion packs had story modes, and those were the only very interesting ones. So if you got the Ghostbusters pack, and if you got the Fantastic Beasts pack, or the Lego Batman movie one, or the Doctor Who one, then those packs gave you extra levels in the game to play, and that was more fun. But some of the characters you could buy and some of the packs you could buy would unlock their universe or their area, but they wouldn't really give you much to do. You could just kind of explore their cute little version of Harry Potter's world or Batman's city, but there weren't any new levels or anything to do really. So I think where this all crashed and burned was the price. Man, people just it wasn't cost effective to keep it up. But I would definitely be in line to request a sequel from Lego and TT Games, because it was the most fun story I'd ever played, and you don't necessarily need the toys to be able to keep telling stories like that, or to be able to keep bringing IPs together in creative and fun ways for everyone. The big concept of it too was the idea of infinite universes and different dimensions. You know, a lot of people believe in string theory, probably just the idea that there's a version of them out there that could be rich or president retired on a beach is very appealing. And I think that's one of the biggest driving forces of belief in string theory is that we just want to believe that there are universes, parallel universes out there where we're living our best life. It would be interesting for me to see what people would do if they discovered that there actually are some. Imagine if we could communicate with parallel universes and we discovered that there are different ones. I know the first thing that America would probably try to do is send them money. The second thing they would probably do would probably be to attempt to harness said universes. The biggest real benefit to playing LEGO Dimensions is the ability to pair Scooby-Doo with Batman and all these characters that just don't go together. It was just hilarious fun to see how they would interact. And a lot of the gameplay surprisingly ended up revolving around the starter kit pad. So you would have to put vehicles or people on the toy pad. And the only pain really in playing this game, the only downside was sitting comfortably near the gamepad. You're going to have to orient yourself in a way that you are, because if not, then a lot of the gamepad, you can't do things a different way if they call for the gamepad to be used. So you had to be, for me, usually was on the floor with the gamepad on the end table because it's connected to the console by cord. So it could get uncomfortable sometimes. You just have to be comfortable with a setup that keeps you near the gamepad. Sometimes a character would be in danger and you'd have to move them to another part of it in order to break out and continue gameplay. Sometimes a vehicle would need to be altered or moved. And then often, if you needed certain people and their abilities, you have a limited amount of space on that gamepad though, so you need to with it, you need to choose who's staying and who's going. So especially people like me who built up kind of impressive collections of different minifigures that I can use, so I have more characters to play in different levels and more abilities. I would have a giant crowd of figures around the gamepad, but there's only room for like maybe 6 or 7 on there. So I would often just be switching them out mid-game. Team, or if I needed a certain team on, you couldn't just use your game controller to pull those characters into the game. But other than those factors, the gamepad really wasn't a big deal. It didn't interrupt the game flow. Most of the gameplay was through the controller, and you were simply controlling the characters or in the vehicles that you had on the gamepad physically at that time. That could improve the game was if there was no gamepad in the first place, and if they just released it without the toys to life aspect. It was still fun, much more fun than the other games that had introduced it or adopted it. Interested in Lego sets anyway. Plenty. So then when I started playing the game, and when I bought the game, it was pretty fun to be able to, that I had never gotten in Lego sets or found elsewhere. The only bummer is that you couldn't really take you owned in your Lego collection and put them into the game. That was the only shame in it, really. In order to interact with the game, one character needed to they needed to have their own computer chip stand that they could stand on and connect to. Not make a lot of characters that would have been really cool. They had already made a Lego Pirates of the Caribbean game, and they had made Lego Indiana Jones games, and they had made Lego Star Wars games, but you couldn't play as any of those characters, and you couldn't play with those IPs in Lego Dimensions, because it seems that Lego Dimensions was with in interaction with certain studios like Warner Brothers and Universal, but Disney wasn't a part of it. They were doing their own Toys to Life with Disney Infinity. So that was a real big shame that you couldn't add Star Wars characters or Indiana Jones or Pirates to Lego Dimensions, because Jack Sparrow especially would have been so funny interacting with a lot of the characters that we were given in Lego Dimensions. A year after the Lego movie, so it really did kind of capitalize on a lot of mainstream success that Lego was having anyway. Continue the encouragement of kids to do their own thing with Legos, build their own creations, make their own stuff, mix things up. So it came for the ideals that the company was trying to encourage in kids, and it was fun for adults too as well. So people like me who just collect, side hobby, get things that I otherwise would not have got my hands on. I probably wouldn't have gotten that Lego Doctor Who set. It sold out really before I could get my hands on it, or before it crossed my radar, but I was able to get the Doctor Who Lego Dimensions pack, so I did end up with a figure, and those are pretty darn rare. As far as I'm aware, they've only made one based off Peter Capaldi's Doctor, and they've only made a couple sets with him and a Lego Dimensions pack, so I have a pretty rare figure with him. Juice, I mean, they weren't making Beetlejuice sets, so I'm sure it was really cool for people to be able to get that and to be able to get the classic Ghostbusters set. Fun and nostalgic for them. A lot of perks to it, and like I said earlier with Christopher Lloyd, there were a lot of funny promo videos made where the actors to these characters would be delivered the Lego Dimensions box with their character, and they would build the portal and assemble their little minifigure. A sneak peek before the rest of us at what Lego was cooking up. Thrilling game. There are not a lot of setbacks with it. I personally would give it 2 thumbs up, and I kind of skated over the story. I'm not going to spoil it. To give it a shot, I know it's kind of difficult to play it at this point, but there are a lot of very cheap starter packs floating around now for different consoles, so if you are interested in going back and playing what was released and what is available, and obviously you can pick and choose which expansion packs you want, if you want any, but I would at least encourage everyone to see if you can get your hands on a cheap starter pack and playing the main game through by itself, but it's only made better by a couple of the expansion packs. I would say the Doctor Who one is essential. Be able to use the TARDIS to navigate and travel through that world, and it's really, really cool to be able to go in and automatically regenerate to whichever Doctor you want, whichever one is your favorite, and change his console, his TARDIS console interior to whichever one you want. So you could have the 8th Doctor in the 5th Doctor's TARDIS, and it's just really cool, the combinations, and they're not necessarily randomized. You can control it. You can set which one you want. So in lottery, like, the character in the show has to deal with not knowing what he's gonna end up looking like next. Sure. Yeah, I would say the only problems with LEGO Dimensions really are just what it couldn't do. The deals that LEGO couldn't make, Disney wasn't interested. They had their own thing, so really it was only held back by the people who were unwilling to participate. Other than that, it was spectacular. It went above and beyond my expectations, both in gameplay and in story, and the cutscenes. Everything they provided was incredible, and the cast went above and beyond to give their all and make it so funny and so much fun to play through. It's one of the few LEGO games that I could actually play the main story several times and not get very tired of it, and even watch the cutscenes again. Want to play it, I would recommend at least going on YouTube and just watching all the cutscenes for the main story and for the expansion pack for Doctor Who, because those two were the best ones, and at least it makes a really cool LEGO movie. If you don't want to play it, if you don't want to buy anything, if you already have it, you don't want to play it again, yeah, I would recommend at least watching it, because it's a very great story. It's very funny, and it's interesting. More to say about it, honestly. You can check out a word from our sponsor, which is the same as it's always been so far. We're brought to you by Anchor, and you can check that out here in a minute, and after that break I can go into some unsolicited advice or philosophy, either one. I don't know, I'm bored tonight. There's no one to play off of with this episode. I'm kind of talking to myself, talking to the void. I really should start live streaming some of these, I swear. What has been going on in the world today? Conversation starter. Try unsolicited advice. My section, but we're gonna have a crossover, a LEGO style crossover. Unsolicited advice for the week. Quote from Anne Bonny. Like a man, you need not have hanged like a dog. That's what Anne Bonny told her husband, Calico Jack. Solicited advice. No, I will not elaborate on it. I will not give you any nuggets of great wisdom. I will not tell you what to do with the quote. Gonzo Film Reviews on Twitter. And you might actually, though, they did take the very first picture of the black hole that is at the center of our own galaxy. It's a very, very interesting picture. Obviously it's blurry and it's not a perfect rendition, but it looks like there's 3 equidistant giant fireballs in the fiery ring that surrounds the black hole. It's a very interesting picture. I would recommend you look it up. But yeah, it was it's the first time any of us have seen it. And we knew there was one there, but we had never been able to see it until now. The sound of 2 black holes colliding, that they had been able to capture it or recreate it some years back. And I was so excited. I expected the most horrifying kind of like howling or crunching or demon sounding noise, and it sounded like someone slowly pulling a lollipop out of their mouth, or a cartoon drop of water sound. It was very anticlimactic and underwhelming. Science isn't always what you expect. It was very cool. And I've always wondered if we ever could develop a vehicle that could survive a black hole like in Interstellar. Oh, I cannot wait to review Interstellar on this channel. That is going to be one hell of an in-depth and loving review, but that's for the future. I've always wondered if you could survive a black hole. Like, where would you go? Pure wormhole, but it would be very interesting. It would be so cool if it led somewhere. Like if it sucks things in, then shoots them out the back end into another place. I think that'd be cool to find out. Obviously, though, anything we could put in there now would get completely ripped apart and destroyed and consumed. Billionaires wasting time popping up in the stratosphere for a few minutes. I think they should start focusing the vast excess of their wealth, since they're uninterested in reinvesting it into the people of the planet. If you're gonna waste it, at least waste it doing something cool or useful, like developing something that could survive a black hole, and then they can go and try it out. We'll never know if it worked, obviously, but it's something for them to do. They can feel useful, like they've done something for us. Create Amazon, which at this point seems more than a front for a Guinness World Record attempt at the number of custodies by a major American corporation. It was a fantastic game, an amazing story, special entertainment for all ages. I would give it 2 thumbs up as both a game and as a watchable story. Just, it can function as a movie, and it's on YouTube everywhere. A bunch of people have posted the cutscenes, and I would check it out. It's so cute and funny, and so much fun to experience. Rolled on enough. Great, that's good, because I created this podcast, and I'm gonna keep doing it until I can no longer draw breath, and let it out. And there'll be many fun interviews coming up, and we will be getting my co-host back. Well, hit him up on Twitter. I believe his handle is at Cloud1271. Let him know you missed him this week. Give him a message on there. And listening, guys, it's always appreciated. Things have been growing, and I couldn't be more happy about that. And some cool stats for you guys. We're actually number 3 in Sweden in their top film reviews podcasts. Tremendous honor. I hope at some point I can raise that to number 1. I would love to be number 1 at anything in Sweden. That would be so cool. And yeah, I just thought that was really neat. Shout out to our Swedish audience. There will be more episodes coming. There are a lot more for you guys to enjoy. I'm having fun doing this. It's really all it is, just film criticism and philosophy for fun. No one gets graded. Save and download the episodes, and you'll get notifications when